Number 8. Boat crashes into restaurant. In 2015, a boat crashed into a Florida restaurant due to conditions of heavy fog. 7 people were aboard the 39-foot-long vessel called the Seavey as it hurtled towards the beachside Sunset Grill in Little Harbor. The boaters would later tell the authorities that they'd gotten lost in the fog and didn't know they were about to hit land. The Seavey, which was equipped with 300 horsepower outboard engines, struck the restaurant at 40 to 50 miles per hour, causing the partial collapse of its roof. The boat missed the Sunset Grill staff and patrons. A few of the people aboard were injured, although not to a life-threatening degree. Due to the instability of its roof, the beachside restaurant had to be evacuated, but would open again in a few days. Number 7. Smolensk air disaster. On April the 10th of 2010, 96 people were killed, including President of Poland, Lech Kaczynski, the country's chiefs of staff, and the head of the National Bank, when a Tupolev Tu-154 aircraft crashed near the Russian city of Smolensk. Those on board were flying in to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the Katyn massacre, in which the Soviet Union had ordered the execution of 22,000 Polish military officers. The pilots were trying to land at a former airbase in conditions of thick fog, with visibility reduced to about 1,600 feet. The Tu-154 descended far below the required approach path. The crew reportedly lacked the training necessary to fly in adverse weather conditions. The command to level the aircraft into horizontal flight reportedly came 10 seconds too late. When the Tu-154 was already about 46 feet from the ground below, it started hitting trees, one of which tore a large chunk off the left wing. A few seconds later, the airplane became inverted and struck the ground, first with the left wing and then the nose. Impact forces in excess of 100 G instantly killed everyone on board. Number 6. Terence Avery Green. In 2015, a Georgia police officer was killed in the line of duty by an intoxicated gunman. A 911 call placed at 12:43 a.m. reported that a man was banging on doors in a Fulton County neighborhood while firing a long-barrel gun. 48-year-old Terence Avery Green, who'd been on the job for 22 years, was among the responding officers. They arrived at the scene, but were forced to look for the suspect through dense fog. The shooter, identified as 42-year-old Emmanuel Mengesha, took advantage of the limited visibility to ambush the officers and opened fire on them. Green was fatally shot in the back of the head. Another officer was shot in the belt area, but the bullet only struck his radio and he wasn't hurt. Mengesha was hit as the officers returned fire. He was still conscious as he was transported to the hospital and later faced the death penalty for his crimes. Number 5. Tank crash in Tyrol. In October of 2016, 2 German soldiers were injured after the tank they were in crashed more than 160 feet down the side of an embankment in the Austrian Alps. The men were on an exercise in Tyrol at the time. The tank's 24-year-old driver lost his way in the fog and then accidentally drove the military vehicle off-road. As it went down the hill, the tank rolled over several times. The men could only be freed after a recovery crane was brought to the crash site and successfully readjusted the tank's position. The driver has sustained light injuries, but his 31-year-old brother-in-arms had to be airlifted to a hospital in Munich. Number 4. Empire State Building B-25 crash. On July the 28th of 1945, a little over a month before the end of World War II, an American Mitchell B-25 bomber accidentally crashed into the Empire State Building. Lieutenant Colonel William F. Smith Jr. was piloting the aircraft on a routine transport mission. He asked for clearance to land at Newark Metropolitan Airport in New Jersey, at which point he was told of zero visibility conditions. Smith proceeded with the flight plan, but became disoriented in the fog while above New York City. Instead of turning left after passing the Chrysler Building, Smith veered right. The B-25 flew into the north side of the Empire State Building between the 78th and 80th floors. It caused an 18 by 20 foot hole, which is roughly double the size of the average parking space. One of the B-25's engines flew through the building and exited out of the opposite side. It dropped on the roof of a building 900 feet below and destroyed a penthouse art studio. The other engine and part of the landing gear fell down an elevator shaft, inside the Empire State Building. The aircraft's 3 crewmen and 11 civilians were killed. The ensuing fire was quelled within 40 minutes and became one of the only blazes to be controlled by firefighters at such a significant height. The accident was also notable for the incredible survival story of elevator operator Betty Lou Oliver. She was working on the 80th floor when the initial impact threw her from the car. Firefighters rescued Oliver, who'd suffered bad burns, and placed her in another elevator, unaware that the supporting cables had been weakened to the breaking point. The car plummeted 75 stories towards the basement, taking Oliver with it. Remarkably, the woman survived the tremendous drop and was rescued from the debris with a broken back, pelvis, and neck. Number 3. Crash in France. In December of 2016, an estimated 50 vehicles were involved in a crash on a roadway in France. The accident occurred on the A87 between La Roche-sur-Yon and Ceballes-d'Elon in the western part of the country. The crash was caused by motorists going too fast in conditions of extreme fog and ultimately involved several dozen cars, vans, and trucks. 5 people were killed and 6 were severely injured, while up to 40 others were taken to the hospital with bruises, cuts, and whiplash. Roughly 30 vehicles sustained varying degrees of damage. In the immediate aftermath, first responders had to close the roadway in both directions to clear the debris and tend to the victims. Today's topic was requested by Ninja Turtle 123. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. 2020 Calabasas helicopter crash. On January the 26th of 2020, a helicopter crash in Calabasas, California, killed retired NBA superstar Kobe Bryant and his teenage daughter Gianna, along with 7 other people. The 1991 Sikorsky S-76B helicopter, piloted by 50-year-old Ara Saboyan, departed from an airport in Orange County. The passengers were heading for a game at Bryant's Mamba Sports Academy, where he was due to coach his daughter's team. Thick fog had been reported that morning, and even the LAPD had grounded their helicopters. Even though he wasn't qualified to fly in such conditions, Saboyan chose to take off due to what officials would later suspect was self-induced pressure to please his famous client. At one point during the flight, according to an investigation by the National Transport Safety Board, the pilot experienced spatial disorientation in the fog. At 9:45 a.m. in his last transmission, Saboyan had told flight control that he was climbing above the cloud cover. Seconds later, the aircraft veered left and started descending rapidly at a rate of 65 feet per second. It then crashed into a hillside at over 180 miles per hour, killing everyone on board. In the aftermath, many people from around the world expressed condolences and feelings of regret towards the tragedy. Number 1. Tenerife Airport Disaster. The deadliest accident in aviation history, with 583 fatalities, occurred on the 27th of March 1977 at Los Rodeos Airport in Tenerife. The airport was severely congested at the time after a number of flights had been diverted to it. Parked planes had blocked the taxiway, forcing those taking off to maneuver directly on the runway. Visibility had been greatly reduced by patches of thick fog that covered the airfield. Due to the airport's altitude of 2,077 feet above sea level, visibility varied wildly and sudden fog was a known occurrence. The captain of KLM Flight 4805 mistakenly believed it had been cleared to take off and initiated the procedure. At the same time, Pan Am Flight 1736 was still on the runway, shrouded in fog. The KLM had left the ground at about 160 miles per hour when the captain of the Pan Am suddenly spotted its landing lights through the fog. Knowing collision was imminent, the pilots of the first Boeing 747 desperately tried to clear the second by rotating and pulling up. The nose had made it past it, but the KLM's lower fuselage, left side engines, and main landing gear ripped through the center of the Pan Am. The KLM crashed into the ground, about 500 feet past the collision. The impact and resulting explosion killed all 248 passengers and crew aboard the KLM, as well as 335 passengers on the Pan Am. 61 people on the second Boeing, the majority of whom had been seated at the front of the plane, survived. Thanks for watching. Would you rather cross an unsteady rope bridge in extreme fog or walked barefooted over broken glass for 30 feet? Let us know in the comments section below.